Okay, Danny. So this is the latest thing I've been working on. I bought this a while ago, and all this does is it's a buck converter. So it takes a higher voltage and drops it down to lower voltage. So I have a couple wires coming off it, and taking energy from here, and the energy from here is coming from this battery right here. So it's going through here, blah 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 blah, into there, and then out it fits. Well, I adjusted it to 7 volts. And so I've been using it to kind of keep this battery, this bigger gray battery, fine because the voltage of it slowly drops at night when there's no charge going to it. It doesn't want to hold the charge like this one will. So I don't exactly know why, but I think it's just a bad battery that the stuff inside isn't doing what it should. You know, the plates and the acid and whatnot and whatever the stuff. So what I did was I hooked this up to that, and so it continuously put energy into the battery and keep it up overnight so that way it wouldn't drop. Because if it drops, that's bad for the battery. So you want to keep it topped up somewhat. So what I did is I hooked it up there, but the problem is sometimes when the battery of the voltage gets higher than the voltage that's coming out of this thing. It's like if I have it set to like 7 volts and this goes up to 8 volts, then the energy would be going backwards into this, which is a problem because then that could mess with the capacitors and kind of mess this thing up really good. So what I did is I put this device called the diode, this little black thing in there. It's called the diode. So it only lets energy go one way. So it only lets energy go that way and doesn't let it come back that way. So that could be, maybe like 100 volts or whatever, and it will not come back in here. So it's protecting it is what it's doing. So yeah, I got lucky and I found one off of the old my sister's old blow dryers. You know, these you've probably never seen inside one. But anyway, this is what's inside of a blow dryer. These springs heat up, and then air passes over the springs, and it it heats up the air coming out, and that's how those work. But anyway, there's a huge fat diode that was sitting, I think, right in that slot, kind of in the middle there. And so I took it out and looked at the number of it, and it can deal with 10 amps of current running through it. So, which is a lot of current, but I need one that can go that high because if I'm going to use it to block the energy going this way, it's going to be, if I need it to block the energy coming from the battery backwards, it's also going to have energy going through it, and I need it to withstand the energy going through it. So I use a diode, and there's a 1 volt voltage drop across this. Like, let's say if I have it set to 6 volts coming out of here, then once it goes across the diode, the 6 volts will drop to 5 volts. And so if I want to keep the battery at 6 volts, then I have to raise the voltage up to 7 volts because once it passes over the diode, it drops by 1 volt, if it's 7, then it goes to 6. So it's the right voltage for these batteries. So that's what I did. So yeah, so that's that's a good little project. I mean, it's really simple. I just found the part and soldered it onto the end of the wire and stuck it in there, and it's kind of sketchy, I'll admit, but it does the job. It's pulled off quite a bit. I mean, this thing was having 10 amps going through it, and I think the max that this thing could have going through it is either 10 or 20. This whole little system. So I was at max capacity with it. So that's 10 amps. This was 10 amps. I mean, it's either 10 or 15. I can't remember what the max current of that is, but yeah, I mean, it was hardcore, dude. It was getting really warm there for a second, but once the voltage of the battery reaches a certain voltage, like once it reaches higher than what the voltage is set to go to, so it was 7, and then now drops it down to 6. So once it gets past 6, then this doesn't give it current anymore because it doesn't have to, because the source is now, or the load, which is the battery, is higher than the source, which is the source is this thing. So yeah, and then at night when the solar dies off, it'll start up again. It'll kind of keep it topped off at 6 volts, and And then in the morning it'll start back up again. So I did that just to kind of save the battery for a bit longer and hopefully not kill it, you know. And the voltage goes up because of course I have solar, so it's basically having two sources of power kind of hooked up to it. And um, yeah, so that's I think shit. Now I think about it, because if this is getting 10 volts, and might also getting power from the solar, which is 3 volts, or sorry, if this is 10 amps going into the battery, then I might have like 3 amps coming from the solar, unless maybe it drops it. I don't exactly know how it works, but maybe it drops it, and I don't know. It's kind of something I should have looked into, but yeah. Hopefully, I have no explosions. You gotta look out for gassing, what they call it. So if energy is going into it too quick, it'll start making a hissing noise and output hydrogen gas, which can be flammable, but I think that typically happens when it charges with it. So I haven't done that yet. So that's good. So it shouldn't be overcharging. I don't know if there's a current input limit. Like, I don't know if it can only handle 10 amps going into it, or if it can handle 30 amps going into it. I don't know. I haven't looked into that. I know the highest I've had going into it is 5 amps. So this is kind of like a little bit of a sketchy thing for me, I guess. I probably should have done a little bit differently, but yeah. So that's how that works. Diode, going to the battery, and good stuff.